The report on Bryan Reynolds being undercut is as accurate and reliable as it gets, and that's because it didn't really come from a reporter. It came from inside the industry. I'll explain. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also happen to offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins. By no small coincidence. Hope you'll check those out as well. Jon Heyman is the reporter. Jon Heyman, a long time ago, became embedded with Scott Boras and the Boras Corporation, which is actually what the agency is called. It's called the Boras Corporation. Talk about self-importance. Heyman and Boras have been joined at the hip for the better part of 2 decades. And if that sounds unethical, yeah, it kind of is. But because Heyman is close to Boras, and because Boras and his corporation do a lot of their own investigating, including into other people's deals and other people's discussions, Heyman can have the occasional significant exclusive. And as a result, nobody really cares about his ethics or anything else. So when Heyman reported heading into this past weekend that the Pirates' offer for Bryan Reynolds, the extension offer, the one that was shot right into the sun, was for 6 years and $75 million. It was to be taken seriously. Obviously not because I have any respect for Heyman, but because I know how the Boras Corporation works. I've dealt with them myself, though hardly in any uncomfortable, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back way. So it's accurate, and that's what matters here. 6 years and $75 million was the offer. And since we finally have that figure, the only thing I'd been told about it beforehand was that the total number of dollars exceeded the $70 million that Ke'Bryan Hayes got, and the total number of years was lower than the 8 years that Hayes got. So here we are. Just a little bit over what Hayes got and just a little bit under his year count, and not at all in sync with where the overall market is for a player of Reynolds' pedigree. And yes, I understand that I'm going to push a hot button here or there when I discuss Reynolds' pedigree. He is not one of the 10 best players in the majors. He might not be one of the 10 best outfielders in the majors, though he's been that at different points in his time in Pittsburgh. But he is worth more than 6 years and $75 million. There's no one anywhere outside of Bob Nutting, Travis Williams, and Ben Cherington who would suggest otherwise. And if this was an entry point, if it was nothing more than an entry point to an honest negotiation, then the Pirates were completely tone deaf in starting this obscenely low. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. And that's really the issue here. It's that the first offer came in so low that if Reynolds or his representation at CAA engages from that starting point, they're operating at a huge disadvantage. Then they've got almost no choice, I think, based on my knowledge of how these things go back and forth, than to concede a much, much lower top end. And that's just bad negotiating. It's arguably bad faith negotiating on the Pirates' part, because they know that he wouldn't take anything remotely in the solar system of 6 and 75. So this also ultimately answers the question as to why Reynolds, who legitimately wants to stay in Pittsburgh, I can't stress that strongly or often enough. He really, really wants to stay. How you could get Reynolds to agree to go public with the trade request. Because from there, CAA has a very easy time selling Reynolds on the idea that they don't actually want you. They don't actually want you to stay. They're doing this for show for you to turn it down so that they can justify moving you for more prospects. Easiest sell. They probably got that done in about 5 minutes. You can picture that behind closed doors. Hey, Brian, do you really think you're just about as good as Brian Hayes? And I'm sure behind a closed door, you can say anything, right? No, heck no. I mean, I'm more available. I'm more productive. I'm more everything. Sure you are. Sure you are. So what are they doing offering you this? Boom. There it goes. But I'm going to say this too, and I'm going to add this in because this also was in Heyman's report, that the Pirates remain very, very much interested in keeping Reynolds for the long term. Because that matches what I've heard, and by the way, what I continue to hear even after this. Doesn't mean they've got other talks planned or anything to that effect. There's no hurry. He is signed by the Pirates for the next 2 years, but that they very much want to make it happen. And reading that come from, again, de facto from the Boris Corporation further cements everything that I'd been hearing. So what we're really talking about here is that the Pirates just were clumsy, which they do a lot. Have you noticed? There's a whole lot of clumsy that comes out of 115 Federal, where you go, really? Seriously? That's what you were thinking? That's what you were doing? You canceled Pirate Fest? You're not going on the caravan? What is wrong with you people? They're clumsy. They're clumsy. They act at times like amateurs, and I really, truly am beginning to believe that that's all that happened here, and they didn't expect it to blow up in their faces the way that it did. Okay, fine. Now fix it. Get to work. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Tom, who asks, DK, what sense does it make for the Pirates to keep anyone down in the minors when we all know that all these people are going to be gone after 5 or 6 years anyway? I love this. I love this. And I'm honestly surprised that very few people bring this up. I'll bring it up occasionally, but I probably don't do it often enough. Think about this for a second. If you're Ben Cherington, or for that matter, go up the ladder, Travis Williams, maybe even Bob Nutting, and you're putting into practice a Super 2 policy that says absolutely nobody of any consequence can make it to Pittsburgh without having the Super 2 arrangement in place, meaning that you get to keep the player at a cheaper rate 4, 5, and 6 years down the road. If all of these people are in favor of this plan, and all of them stick to it at their own immediate detriment, then they are of the belief, all of them, Cherington, Williams, and yes, even Nutting, that they're still going to be doing this, their current jobs, their current roles, 4, 5, and 6 years from now. The odds are against that, not the owner, but certainly for the general manager and even for the team president. The odds are very much against that. When Neil Huntington and Frank Coonelly stuck around as long as they did, by the time they were done, they'd been among the most tenured front offices, not just in Major League Baseball, but in all of professional sports, just by having been around for 12 years. The lifespan of this position is not great. The lifespan of this position for a team that doesn't win, like ever, is really, really, really not great. So they have these players in the minor leagues. They keep them there. They bury them there to save what often amounts to not all that much money. You're talking about $5-6 million, at the most 10 or 12 for a really, really good player. And over the period of time that this is happening, the player could be helping you in Pittsburgh and helping your status and helping your standing in keeping that job for as long as you seem to think you're already going to keep it. It's a great point, Tom. I really, really wish it would come up more often. Because why? If you're Cherington, why are you sitting there worrying about what's going to happen in like 2030 or something? You know, just go play ball. Just go win games. I appreciate the question more than you might think, Tom. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. Let's do another one of these tomorrow.